got up and pointed to the
He
stage.
wanted to sit up there.
Yeah, he saw his brother up there, so he was like, "Okay, go up there." And I said, "No, go back there." He goes, and then, oh, goodness. We're going to be in John. I prayed about it and looked, and until this morning. So, or at least what the Lord has planned for the main point of today, I suppose. But we're still going to be in John chapter 11. That's where we left off the last time I was up here. We had read the last couple verses and finished off chapter 10 of John. So now, though, we are at the death of Lazarus and the resurrection, of course, of Lazarus. I don't know how far we get, but we'll let the Lord handle that. I don't have a ton of time anyway. So we're going to take off John chapter 11, verse 1. Now a certain man was ill, Lazarus of Bethany, the village of Mary and her sister Martha. It was Mary who anointed the Lord with ointment and wiped his feet with her hair, whose brother Lazarus was ill. So it's just obviously setting it up so we know who is who. Martha, Mary, and Lazarus are all siblings. And actually it's kind of funny here, at least in John, here in chapter, right here we just read, he letting us know who Lazarus' sister was and who he was by saying Mary's the one that had wiped Jesus' feet. But that hasn't been accounted yet. That's actually in the next chapter. That's actually in chapter 12. But anyway, so verse 3. So the sisters sent to him, meaning Jesus, saying, "Lord, he whom you love is ill." And one thing I took note of, it wasn't a cold. And we know that. But what I mean is they wouldn't have sent for Jesus if it was something minor. They're witnessing Lazarus get more and more and more and more sick to the point to where they're worried about him surviving. We need him healed. So they sent for Jesus. But when Jesus heard it, he said, now this is interesting, "This illness does not lead to death. It is for the glory of God, so that the Son of God may be glorified." This must have been a huge relief to the sisters, to Mary and Martha, knowing, oh, okay, we're good. Lazarus isn't going to die. Jesus, he knows he's the Son of God. They believe this to be so they trust him. That must have been a huge relief to them to hear that Lazarus isn't going to die. But it must have also been a mystery as to what exactly he meant. Because if Lazarus wasn't going to die, then what about it would be for the glory of Jesus? He said, "This illness does not lead to death. It is for the glory of God." What's that mean? So that the Son of God may be glorified through it. He kept it, he didn't exactly explain it all right then and there. He left him in the dark on purpose. It was I see this as a test of their faith.
Yeah, it's a setup.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to tell you exactly what's happening, but he's not going to die.
And yet, later, Jesus said, Lazarus is dead.
Yeah.
And it is the same word.
Yeah. Oh, it's just, yeah.
It's the very same.
Yeah. He kept them in the dark on purpose as a test of faith. And we get to it here in a little while. Because he said, well, I won't get ahead of myself. We'll just keep going. Now, Jesus loved Martha and her sister and Lazarus. So he loved Martha, Mary, and Lazarus. So when he heard that Lazarus was ill, he stayed 2 days longer in the place where he was. Well, that's a mystery. Take note of that. Why wait 2 days? Because when he gets there, Lazarus had been in the tomb 4 days.
Yeah.
So what's the point of waiting 2 days? Because if he hadn't waited at all, Lazarus would have been in the tomb 2 days. So what's the deal there? Verse 7, then after this he said to his disciples, "Let us go to Judea again." The disciples said to him, Rabbi, the Jews were just now seeking to stone you, and are you going there again? So remember in chapter 10, we kind of laughed at it a little bit. It's kind of funny. They said, if you're the Christ, tell us plainly. He had told them plainly. He's told them plainly so many times. They've picked up stones to try to kill him because of how plain he made it. And they asked him again, and so he does. He makes it real plain, and they go to pick up stones, and they go to kill him. So then they left Judea, and it's a few days later that Lazarus is sick. So Thomas is one that's mentioned here in a minute. The disciples are like, hey, you're wanting to go back to the place we just now left because they were going to kill us? They're going to kill you. We just left. You're going to go back? Jesus' answer is, honestly, I'll be quite honest, it's a little bit of a mystery to me exactly. I think there's more to it than I've gotten so far, I guess. And if you guys have input on it, go ahead. Verse 9, Jesus answered, are there not 12 hours in the day? If anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble, because he sees the light of this world. But if anyone walks in the night, he stumbles because the light is not in him. Now this is in response to them not trusting in Jesus. So what I got from it is that he's saying, you're supposed to be trusting me. I know that they're going to try to kill us. They tried to kill us. They would have if we would have stayed. But you're supposed to be trusting me. Walk in the light, not in the dark.
You have to understand that Mary and Martha lived about 3 miles from Jerusalem, which is where all the Pharisees and Sadducees are gathered that want to kill him. And so the word is going to get out of where Mary and Martha lived real quick.
Yeah, it's not a long ways away. It's real close, so they can get there, and it won't take long. And it does happen, actually, what you're saying. Trust in me, that's a hint of where we're headed. Are there not 12 hours in the day? If anyone walks in the day, he does not stumble. Because the light, he does not stumble because he sees the light of this world. But if anyone walks in the night, he stumbles because the light is not in him. And like I said, I think we know what he's saying there, but I think there's more to be gathered. I guess we'll just go on. Verse 11, after saying these things, he said to them, our friend Lazarus has fallen asleep, but I go to awaken him. The disciples said to him, Lord, if he has fallen asleep, he will recover. Now Jesus had spoken of his death, but they thought that he meant taking rest in sleep. Then Jesus told them plainly, like Dad said, Lazarus has died. And for your sake, I am glad that I was not there, so that you may believe. But let us go to him. Imagine being the disciples, and then also imagine being Martha and Mary, hearing Jesus in his own words say, he's not going to die. Then he dies. That would be confusing and a challenge to your belief in Jesus. Is he who he says he is? That'd be a real challenge, because Jesus said he's not going to die, and he did.
Did he?
No, but I'm just saying, in their eyes, it was over. And that's why Jesus waited 2 days. Because I looked it up, a body, back then anyway, because they don't have embalming the way we did. I mean, maybe the Egyptians did, but that's a whole other topic. But after 3 or 4 days, the body starts to smell pretty bad. It's over. It's over. He's gone.
Cellular degeneration.
Huh?
Cellular degeneration.
Yes. Yeah. It starts to descend. It starts to go away after just 3 or 4 days.
And when he said, Lazarus will not die, you see, that's part of what he's addressing in verses 9 and 10. About it, the last bit of verse 10, he stumbles because there's no light in him. he's talking about having the light of God.
Mm-hmm.
In other words, you have the Spirit of the Lord. So when he said Lazarus will not die, Lazarus didn't die,
Yeah.
but his body did.
Yeah. Yeah, Lazarus didn't experience separation from Christ in that sense, but his body had died. I wondered about that, but it was a little L, light, and so I wondered what. I didn't know.
The original language didn't have capitalization.
Okay. So imagine being them and your brother dies when Jesus said he wasn't going to. In your eyes, you would just be thinking, well, he got it wrong. You know. I mean, I still believe that he is who he says he is, but...
Well, he said Lazarus is asleep. And
Well, he said that to the disciples.
yeah, but it also says, I think, is it in Corinthians or Thessalonians, one or the other, where he says, they that are asleep in Christ will he bring with him
Yeah.
when he returns.
Yeah.
And so, you know, that this is new language.
Yeah.
The disciples don't know it. Mary and Martha
Well,
didn't know it. The
Mary-
Jews didn't know it.
Now, there's something, though, to that, because Mary here in a little while, when Jesus goes to him and confronts him, he asks Martha about that, or he mentions it, and Martha does say, I believe he'll rise again in the last day of the resurrection. Yeah, so there is some sort of knowledge there of it.
But Jesus countered that thought that she iterated there. In the last day at the resurrection,
Mhm, yeah.
Jesus said, I am the
Yeah, I am.
resurrection, and I'm here right now. And I'm
right.
telling you,
Yeah.
Lazarus is not dead.
Right. And all right, let's keep going. There's so much. That's basically it. Verse 17 through 27, 28, that little paragraph is kind of where we boil down to. Jesus said he'd fallen asleep. And the disciples said he'll recover, and Jesus finally did say, Lazarus has died. And in verse 15, and for your sake I am glad I was not there, so that you may believe. Let's go to him. And I keep putting myself in their position. How confusing that must have been for Martha and Mary. And then to hear Jesus tell them he's not going to die, and then he just told them Lazarus has died.
And all of Scripture really is a quandary even to us until God gives us, puts it together for us, makes us to see how he died and yet he's not dead. We just have to have that resurrection that Christ is talking about.
Right, and hindsight's 20/20. We know the end of this story. Yeah, we know exactly, and we have the scriptures to read through and to understand exactly what Jesus is talking about. But they didn't have that. So verse 16. So Thomas, called the twin, said to his fellow disciples, let us also go, that we may die with him. So doubting Thomas kind of shows up here.
I can't accept Thomas as a doubting.
Do what?
I can't accept Thomas as a doubting apostle. That this shows one thing that he's not. But whenever he said, I will not believe until I stick my finger into the holes in his hand and into his side, that was a human. We'd be the same way.
Oh, for sure.
That wasn't doubt. I see it as faith. He said, I'm going to see Christ, and I'm going to touch these things, and I'm going to know beyond any shadow of a doubt that this is Jesus Christ, Son of the living God. And that's the way I feel now.
Oh, that's good. Oh, that's a good word, James. Yeah, that's true. Doubting Thomas may be a bad title to put on him for someone who's willing to die with Jesus. Oh, that's good. Okay, so verse 17. Now, when Jesus came, he found that Lazarus had already been in the tomb 4 days. And so we kind of touched on that. He waited 2 days on purpose. It seems that when when God decides to move, when he does things, he wants it to be clear that it was him. We don't have any excuse. The Bible talks about that.
The book of Acts records Paul on the ship.
Oh,
and
right.
A storm came up, and he
Uh-huh.
said, when all hope
Mm-hmm.
was gone that
Yeah.
we should be saved,
Yeah.
then God landed them on shore safely. Not one of them perished. Everything else was lost. But in the fullness of time,
Yeah.
God sent forth his son.
Yeah.
It-
His timing seems to always leave us with no excuse. We've got no other recourse but to acknowledge it's him or to not acknowledge it. And that means we made a decision.
Tim used to say, sometimes God is early, sometimes he's late, but he's always right on
Yeah,
time.
that's pretty good. Yeah. It's exactly when he wanted it to happen and the way he wanted it to happen. That's a good example because I've got written down the water into wine. That he didn't just use water from the stream or clean, pure water. He used nasty water. He used water in those jars, in those clay jars. They had it there for washing and cleaning and purifying. And so it was not, it had been used. And he turned it into drinking wine, the best wine. And then also he does the same thing in judgment. Sodom and Gomorrah, how did he punish Sodom and Gomorrah? It's plain, the 10 plagues of Egypt. I mean, all of these things, all of these signs, there's no way to look at those things and to not know, well, that's God. We've talked about that multiple times throughout John and the Pharisees. They have no excuse. Over and over and over and over, he's made it plain. He's told them plain out in the open. He's spoken riddles. He's done miracles. He's done all kinds of things. There's no excuse. And I think that carries some weight. That carries some weight for us to know there is no excuse for you, for me. There's no excuse to not believe God.
Jesus in the Garden of Gethsemane, he said God could deliver me at any time. But God didn't deliver him. And he said, why have you forsaken me? It went beyond even the Lord's expectation. And oftentimes many Christians will think wrongly about God. It says things about this in the book of Romans, that God does things someday. He's going to be cleared, that thou mayest overcome when thou art judged, and may be justified in all your sayings. All the things, I mean, God's going to destroy the whole world. Well, is God love? Yeah, God's still love.
Yeah.
But someday we're going to see. And it's foolish for us to think evil.
Yeah.
That's
Of the
the
Lord.
thing that Job was commended about. He never accused God of doing folly in all of that. And so, and that's recorded in the book of James, saying, consider the faith of Job. Yeah. Then what faith ought we to have? It may get really dark, but don't accuse God of folly.
Of doing wrong. Not in your heart at all, ever. Okay, verse 18. Bethany was near Jerusalem, that's what Dave was saying, about 2 miles off, and many of the Jews had come to Martha and Mary to console them concerning their brother. So when Martha heard that Jesus was coming, she went and met him, but Mary remained seated in the house. Martha said to Jesus, Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died. But even now, I know that whatever you ask from God, God will give you.
It's faith.
That's faith. And that is basically, we'll keep going, but In their eyes, Jesus said he wasn't going to die. That Lazarus wasn't going to die. Lazarus died, and they still believed. No matter what they faced, no matter what happened, even if it didn't happen the way they thought God himself said it was going to happen, it didn't stop them from believing Jesus. Jesus said to her, "Your brother will rise again." Martha said to him, "I know that he will rise again in the resurrection on the last day." And Jesus said to her, "I am the resurrection, and I am the life. Whoever believes in me, though he die, yet shall he live. And everyone who lives and believes in me shall never die. Do you believe this?" She said to him, "Yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who is coming into the world." And I believe that right there was the point of the test of her faith. Why did Jesus allow Lazarus to die when he said he wouldn't? To test the faith of Martha and Mary. To that right there. Do you still believe that I am who I've said I am? What's been revealed to you? And she said, "Yes, Lord, I believe that you are the Christ, the Son of God, who is coming into the world." Even though Lazarus died and you said he wouldn't. Verse 28, when she had said this, she went and called her sister Mary, saying in private, "The teacher is here and is calling for you." And when she heard it, she rose quickly and went to him. Now Jesus had not yet come into the village, but was still in the place where Martha had met him. When the Jews who were with her in the house, consoling her, saw Mary rise quickly and go out, they followed her, supposing that she was going to the tomb to weep there. Now when Mary came to where Jesus was and saw him, she fell at his feet, saying to him, "Lord, if you had been here, my brother would not have died." She said the same thing. When Jesus saw her weeping, and the Jews who had come with her also weeping, he was deeply moved in his spirit and greatly troubled. And he said, "Where have you laid him?" They said to him, "Lord, come and see." And Jesus wept. Now that moved me this morning. I told Kelsey about it. Jesus at that moment could have just said, "Okay, we're going to go raise him." He could have stopped their sadness. He could have fixed the problem. He could, the thing that was causing their such large amounts of grief, he could have stopped it right then, but he didn't. Instead, he wept with them.
And that's it. He didn't weep because Lazarus was dead.
Because he
Lazarus
wasn't.
is going to come out of the tomb here in a little bit. He's not weep. He's weeping because he's human, and these are humans that don't have full light.
Yeah. And he
You know,
wept
he wept
with them. Compassion. He wept with those who
Feeling the sadness.
that's empathy. That's the heart of Jesus right there. To hurt with those who hurt. Even if you have the answer, that's okay. Don't be Job's friends. We'll just weep with you. That's powerful. That's a big lesson for us to apply to our lives. We're people, and we've got friends, and we've got family, and people die, people hurt, people suffer. Let's have empathy with them. Let's suffer with them.
Brother and sister.
You know, we're called to share in the sufferings of Christ, but in this moment, Jesus shared in the sufferings of his people.
Rejoice with those that rejoice. Weep with those that weep.
Yeah. 36. So the Jews said, "See how he loved him?" But some of them said, "Could not he who opened the eyes of the blind also kept this man from dying?" So here we go again, a debate. How come he didn't do it then? Yeah, but see how he loved Lazarus?
Yeah, but they're missing it.
They're missing it.
He's not weeping. He's weeping because Mary and Martha are weeping.
Yeah.
He's not weeping because Lazarus is dead.
And that's
the
why-
Jews said he's weeping because he loved Lazarus so much and now he's dead.
Now Lazarus is gone. And that's why that is in here, I believe. It's for us to know it was not about that. All right, verse 38. Then Jesus, deeply moved again, he came to the tomb. It was a cave, and a stone lay against it, and Jesus said, "Take away the stone." And Martha, the sister of the dead man, said to him, "Lord, by this time there will be an odor, for he has been dead 4 days." Jesus said to her, "Did I not tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God?" So they took away the stone, and Jesus lifted up his eyes and said, "Father, I thank you that you have heard me. I knew that you always hear me, but I said this on account of the people standing around, that they may believe that you sent me." When he had said these things, he cried out with a loud voice, "Lazarus, come forth." Come out. The man who had died came out, his hands and his feet bound with linen strips, and his face wrapped with a cloth. Jesus said to them, "Unbind him and let him go." Now, Jesus in verse 40, he says, "Did I not tell you that if you believed, you would see the glory of God?" Now, they saw Lazarus die. So there's no doubt that they thought that when Jesus said he's not going to die, and he died, that they didn't believe in that moment, in that regard. But what it did not do is what we touched on earlier. It did not shake their faith in Jesus. He's still who he says he is, even though it didn't happen the way I thought it was going to happen. I mean, in the face of death, he's stinking. He's in the tomb, and he smells bad. He's been dead for so long. And Jesus said, "I told you to believe in me."
The Sadducees did not believe in the resurrection.
Right.
And what's going on here is they're failing to understand. Though the body dies, yet the soul lives on. And so there's just this is what he's doing. That's why this is written here. Yes, Lazarus' body is dead.
Yeah.
But Lazarus didn't die.
Yeah.
He's teaching them something that will correct what was going on in the religious world with the Jewish religion. The Sadducees did not believe in a resurrection.
Yeah.
Well, he's just got resurrected, and not only that, but there's a difference between the body and the soul.
Yeah. Yeah.
Though
And that's
the
why
outward-
Jesus said it the way he said it.
Though the outward man perishes,
Yeah.
the inward man, there's two different things going on here.
Yeah.
The life of the body and the life of the soul.
This reminds me of what Ray said earlier. Who can explain the way God works? It's so far beyond our ability to even fully comprehend. This is what he did. He tested them. They believed in him. He asked her, "Do you believe?" She said, "Yes, Lord, you are the Christ, the Son of the living God, who's coming into the world." What did Jesus say to Peter when Peter gave a similar answer? "Flesh and blood has not revealed this to you. The Spirit of God has revealed this to you." And that's salvation, is when the Spirit moves. So let's not doubt. And this is something I wanted to encourage the kids, the younger ones in.
Brother, excuse me. There's about 7 different times in that narrative that we find that there's a proclamation of faith, a proclamation about what God was fixing to do. That we also find that if we can receive it, is that the spoken word literally feeds upon that written word, and it will produce the living word. We all know John 3:16, for God so loved the world. But that's the written word. It gets into the heart. That's the spoken word when we speak it. And then when we speak it to an individual, that individual comes to the understanding of who God is. That becomes the living word because it moves by faith. within the spirit of man. And man becomes more than what he is, because it's God that begins to reveal those things before him. And y'all forgive me, because I don't know, I sometimes get pretty loud, and I ask God to let me be loud.
Oh, that's okay.
Because I believe with my entire
Yeah.
heart, let the redeemed of the Lord say so in these last days.
No, you're good, James. I remember when I experienced what you're talking about. I was witnessing to Everett, Kelsey's brother-in-law, years ago. And he had heard, he's read the Bible. He had been a false convert for a number of years, and he had been, he knows the gospel message. But he was questioning his salvation. He was pretty convinced that he was not saved. So we were talking one time, and the Lord just said, okay, go through the gospel salvation plan. He knows it, but go through it anyway. And it was written, it was spoken, and in that moment, it became a living word, and he was saved in the garage in Ethan and Maddie's house a few years back. That's exactly right. It's a written word. When spoken, it becomes living.
In other words, when Jesus said, Lazarus, come forth, that's when Lazarus was resurrected. When he said, Everett, come forth, that's when Everett was resurrected.
Goosebumps. That's chill bumps right there. That is the power of the Spirit.
And it
feel
takes
it too. I feel it all over my body.
That's the Spirit of God right there. Speaking to dead men, dead bones, come alive. So this is me being a rookie, I forgot, but whenever it's my turn to preach, it's on the 5th Sundays of the month, which is the months that we have communion. But a neat little tie-in, I suppose, was remember the God that we serve, and don't let anything shake your faith in the God that we believe in and is real.
Can I add one thing?
Yep, of course.
Back in verse 4, I don't know how your translations read, but Jesus never did say he would not die. What he said was the sickness is not meant for death, but for the glory of God.
In verse
other
1?
words, the event isn't about the death of Lazarus.
Oh, right.
It's about the glory of God.
Yeah, he doesn't say he's not going to die. He just says he doesn't need to die. Yeah.
And it was a misinterpretation of everybody all the way through that scenario that
Yeah.
thinking, well, he said he's going to die.
Yeah.
Well,
Yeah.
no, he didn't say he was going to die. He said this event is more important than death. He's going to show the glory of God in the fact that he is the resurrection of Christ.
What does verse, which is good, and thank you for that. But what does your verse 14 say when does Jesus say Lazarus has died?
Yes.
Yeah, okay. Just wondering what there. So earlier in verse 4, he doesn't say Lazarus is going to die from this. He just says it's a sickness as unto death, which is what you were getting at.
And that's something that ought to be understood at the funeral of a Christian, is that this death is unto the glory of God.
Yeah. Yeah. Victor.
Resurrection.
Yeah.
And all that statement is all the reason why he's tarried 2 more days.
Yeah.
Is because he got a point to make that God is the resurrection.
Yeah. Yeah.
He will resurrect us.
And did for Lazarus then, does in salvation. That's what salvation is. It's resurrection, and will on the last day also. Okay.